social skills and ADHD. There's a lot of misconceptions about this topic, so today I want to address the top 6 misconceptions I find people have about social skills in kids with ADHD.
I know that, dude.
Hi, I'm Ryan Wexelblatt. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a school social worker, a certified ADHD professional, and I'm also a dad. All right, to get started, the first thing is social cues. A lot of times parents will say to me, my son misses social cues. And what I say to them is, I wish it were that simple. This goes a lot deeper than just missing social cues. When somebody with ADHD struggles socially, it's because they haven't learned social information intuitively from a young age. Part of that is because they have weak social observational skills, meaning they're not always observing social information, inferring what it means, and kind of processing that in their head. The other piece of this that a lot of people with ADHD struggle with is what's called situational awareness, or reading a room. So if your son or daughter has ever walked into the street without looking, it's because they're not doing what I call reading the field, meaning they're not kind of looking around their environment, figuring out what they're supposed to be doing based on the context of the situation, but also thinking about what's coming up next. I have some videos about this, and I have a new one coming up for kids in my Dude Talk playlist. Role playing. A lot of times mothers in particular say to me, my son needs to role play so he can improve his social skills. And what I explain is this: every social interaction is context dependent. It depends on where we are and who we're with. So every time we have a social interaction, it changes based on all these different variables. If you're role playing social skills, essentially what you're doing is you're role playing some scripted behavior without any context. So that's why role playing does not work, because if you want to use role playing, well, then you have to role play every variable there is of a social interaction based on who's there. So I don't do role playing with kids. I don't think it's realistic, and I don't think it works. Difficulty with social skills can be addressed through counseling or talk therapy. When somebody with ADHD struggles socially, they have what we call a social learning challenge. This is a learning issue. It's not a mental health issue. So you cannot sit in a therapist's office role playing or talking about social situations and expect to see improvement. We have to teach kids these skills that they haven't developed intuitively to help them improve social, which is why therapy does not work to address social learning challenges or help improve social skills. So this is one that really drives me crazy. When I hear parents say that their son lacks empathy, what drives me even crazier is when I hear a therapist tell a parent that their son lacks empathy. The reason for this misconception is because when somebody struggles with perspective taking, it can appear as if they lack empathy. The other reason is because a lot of times kids with ADHD have difficulty relating to others' emotional experiences. So think about this. If I tell you something enthusiastically, I want you to respond a certain way. If I tell you something sad, I want you to respond a certain way. When I tell you something sad and you just say, okay, that might appear that you lack empathy. Or, if I'm sharing something with you about something sad that happened and you have difficulty understanding why somebody might feel the way they do, that can also appear that you lack empathy. In my experience, kids with ADHD do not lack empathy at all. In fact, I find they have more empathy than your average person. Positive peer role models. This is one that's perpetuated by schools, because in every 504 plan or IEP that I've seen for kids who might struggle socially, there's something in there that says, Ryan will sit near positive peer role models, or Ryan will improve his social skills through being around positive peer role models. So like I explained before, when somebody struggles socially, it's because they're born with weak social observational skills. This is actually an aspect of executive functioning. This last one might surprise some of you. You don't need a social skills group to help improve social skills, and the research has shown that social skills groups are not effective for kids with ADHD. So you might be saying, well then, why did my son's guidance counselor and why did, the psychologist or, the pediatrician recommend a social skills group for him? The reason why is because professionals often think that's the go-to thing for kids who are struggling socially. They are usually not familiar with the research that shows they're not effective. The other reason why is because most professionals get no education in social learning challenges. So as a result, most professionals really don't understand what's helpful and what's not helpful in terms of improving social skills. They just know that there's a million social skills groups out there, so they think, okay, well, I should refer kids to one. The other thing I want you to understand is this, that a social skills group is not an organic environment to help improve social competency. Sitting in an office, having this scripted back and forth conversation is not the way we learn to communicate naturally. What I often find with social skills groups for kids with ADHD are that they go and the group facilitator tells the parents, he was the role model for the rest of the group. And if I could be very blunt as to why, because most social skills groups take a one-size-fits-all approach. So they'll take kids with varying degrees of autism, put them in a group with kids with ADHD. So when you do that, a kid with ADHD is most likely going to look much more socially competent than a kid who has more pronounced autism. So that's why a lot of times, I hear this, but that's not helpful for kids. I have a webinar series coming out about this in the spring. And really what we want to do is focus on those skills that haven't developed intuitively, such as perspective taking, such as situational awareness, such as learning to use humor appropriately. A lot of the guys I work with, overdo it with humor. So the last thing I want to mention about this is that social skills take a long time to improve. What I tell parents is this: if you have a 12-year-old, I can't cover with him in 3 months what he hasn't learned intuitively in 12 years. So this is a slow process, and you just have to be really patient with it. I hope this is helpful. Please make sure to check out the Dude Talk playlist, which are my videos for kids on the YouTube channel, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.